This is Sam Huffman bringing you a video from Microsoft Project Do's and Don'ts. The topic for this video is from Chapter 1, Harness the Interface. And before I begin the instruction on the video, I'll give you the opportunity to test your knowledge on Microsoft Project. And these questions can be answered from the chapter content. I'll keep these on screen for a few moments, give you a chance to think about them. Again, these questions will be answered at the conclusion of the video. Alright, let's have a look at Microsoft Project's interface. All of what I'm about to show you can be found in Chapter 1 of Microsoft Project Do's and Don'ts. Have a look. There's lots of detail there for you. When you first start Project will offer you the opportunity to choose a blank project. It will offer you the opportunity to choose from templates, from existing projects, and also from projects that you've already saved that it can be found in the recent list where I'm circling my mouse cursor. For our purpose, I'm going to choose a blank project. Note that Project's interface is very similar to other Office applications. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a quick access toolbar. Under that is this tabbed interface that we call the ribbon. Different tabs have different duties. Within each tab, there is a command group that's found at the bottom of the tab. It's a way of organizing the commands that are contained in the tab. The quick access toolbar is static. It doesn't change, which gives you the opportunity to add commands to it that you use a lot. For example, on this task tab, there is a command in the far right here under properties to look at detailed information about a task, or to scroll to a task in the timeline that isn't visible in this Gantt chart that we're looking at. If you right-click on a command that you use a lot, the first opportunity here is to add that command to the quick access toolbar, and if you choose it, now there is a new button to push, in this case the scroll to task button, so you don't have to go looking and trying to remember where the commands were individually. It's a way of saving time. So I encourage you, as you use Project and you find these commands that you repeat again and again and again, put that up here in the quick access toolbar so that you can use it frequently without having to search for it. To remove it from the toolbar, right-click on the icon and remove from the quick access toolbar. There's another command up here that is really useful to you, particularly in the early days of using Project. Get the drop-down list, and it's the View command here. And what that offers you are all of the different ways to look at your project information. We'll look at that very shortly in a real project that I've loaded up and have available for us. If you click on the drop down, here are the default views in MS Project that you can look at. Gantt chart is only one, but that is the default in the tool. One of the tabs in the ribbon is related to the view that you might have open. It's the Format tab. I'll click on it, and all of the commands pertain to the formatting of a Gantt chart. Watch what happens though as I move to a Gantt chart or another type of view, different type of Gantt chart. I'll choose the resource sheet. There's a different view. This is where we define resources in Project. And notice that the commands have changed here in format. Now there's not so many anymore. This pertains to the columns that we see in the resource sheet. I'll go back to the Gantt chart, and we'll see once again the tools and the format tab pertaining to the Gantt chart itself. Context sensitive. Remember that about the ribbon. It will change as you go from tab to tab, and in particular from view to view in that format tab. I'm now going to load an actual project file that I use for demonstrations so that we can take a closer look at the concept of views. Go to the File tab, and I'll open Project Lifecycle. Slightly different look because it is a project file that has been pre-created just for our use in this demonstration. Now, here I'm looking at a Gantt chart. The Gantt chart is actually a composite of a sheet, this is called the task sheet, and the chart itself, the Gantt chart, which is a timeline. And for each of these bars that you see, it's illustrating where we expect work to be conducted and how long it's going to take to do that work. This is just to give us reference between tasks in our project. Notice that there are arrows that are showing sequence, dates, resources assigned to tasks. In the sheet, you can see that there is form and substance. It's outlined. There's numbers involved for each of these tasks. These are the equivalent of WBS numbers. They're actually called outline numbers. You can see some tasks have a check. That means that they are completed. Now, again, this is a composite view, which means that at the bottom of each of these we will see a bar so that we can move our tasks or move our view here from one side to the other, and we can proceed in the timeline as well. So two different components of a Gantt chart give you this great tool in which to enter your information and to view your information. Sheets are containers for tables. So as an example, the default table is called entry, but there are other ways to look at tasks. Tables and the table commands are in the View tab under the Data sub-command here, a grouping command. Choose the drop for labels and you'll see the various types of tables available. So if you want to see, for example, the cost, it will show you costs of each of the tasks and roll up those costs to the project level where you can see the entire project costs in your project. And other types of tables as well, like the work table, how much work is being conducted, the tracking table, the percentages of completion, and others as well. As you can see in this list, there's a multitude of tables available for you. I'm going to go back to the entry table and move on to another view. So that's a Gantt chart. I'll go to the resource sheet. The same resource sheet that we were looking at earlier is now populated with data. So we can have names, we can see how many of the resource there might be, what their rate might be, and which calendar they use. More on that coming up very shortly. Go back to the Gantt chart. Now, there are many views in this tool, and again, I encourage you to go into a project and experiment with the different views, tables, and so on that are available in sheets, charts, graphs and forms and so on. They'll all offer you a unique look into your project. There is one type of form though, or one type of view that I want to show you how to create, and it is the primary view for analyzing information in project. I'll select the task, and notice I see how long the task is when it starts, and I can see the team and the duration of the task in the Gantt chart, but that's about it. If I want to see more, then I need to either look into the information button, or I can turn on details. I'll turn it on in the split view of the View tab, turn on details, and now Project offers me a combination view. This is an extremely powerful way to look at your project. There are two views now on your screen. The Gantt view, where I've selected a single task, is now being shown in a task form in the bottom. The details of the task are now available, so I can see the resources and how much work is required of them, and I can see the dates that are involved, the type of task. If I want to see different details, I can right-click on this gray area, and Project will offer me other details, like, for example, the schedule for the resources, the date that they're required to work, the notes if there are any assigned to the task. Great place for things like completion criteria or extra information that you don't want to put into the task name. I'll right-click again and come back to the default or resources and predecessors. When I'm done with this, I can return to the single pane view by right-clicking in this little gray area of the form and choosing Show Split again. And now I'm right back where I started in my Gantt chart. Another view that you might want is one we started with when we had no data. It's the timeline. View tab, Split View, Timeline. Turn it on, and you'll see a device that was first made available in Project 2010. It's a view of the project in terms of its duration. So, for example, we can scroll the timeline. We can add items to the timeline, like the control gates and the phases of the project. We can change the color of the timeline. We can extend, compress the timeline just to make sense of it. Now notice that we don't have all of the tasks in the project. We just have some. In this case, these are the phases, the summarizations of work, and the gates showing when specific items will begin or are completed, as well as this finish date of the project and the start date of the project. This is very useful as a view that you would offer management teams, supervisors, executives. If they need to see more details, you can always drill down into one of the Gantt charts or other available views in your project to make sense of it for them. Once you come to grips with how you format this, you might be able to see the timeline tools. We can now format, which means we can add take away tasks. We can in terms of the copying of this timeline, we can copy it directly for a presentation in, say, PowerPoint. We can format it so that it will work in Outlook to go in an email, or just copy the picture so it can go into some other application, like, for example, Word or other application where you're explaining your project or giving a presentation on your project. I'm going to go ahead now and move my bar here back up so this can always be available anytime you want in your task views here. All you have to do is select a different, like the Gantt chart task control gate, a different item, and in the split view components you can turn on or turn off the timeline. Some people don't respond well to just having text. They forget what the views might look like. And for those folks, we have a kind of a gift. If you move to your description here, the left-hand side of the Gantt chart where we see the term Gantt chart, if you right-click, it'll offer you those views again. But at the bottom, there is a command for a view bar. If you select that, Project will offer you graphic buttons so that you can see what the view does, and it'll also tell you which view you're in this depressed button, like for the Gantt chart here. Different Gantt charts offer different looks. A network diagram or a calendar looks quite a bit different than a Gantt chart. But in one click, you can now go from one view to another. Take the time to explore Project's interface. Although there's many ways to enter data and analyze the computations made, there's got to be one that will work for you. Go out there and find it. It's time to answer the questions that we started this video with. To refresh your memory, here are the questions. I'll give you a few seconds to look at that. Now let's go and get to the answers. First question, what's the difference between the Quick Access Toolbar and the ribbon? Well, the Quick Access Toolbar is static and the ribbon is context sensitive. In the video you saw that when different tabs were chosen in the ribbon that the content changed. If a view was changed, then the contents of the Format tab were changed to give you that view's specific formatting tools. The Quick Access Toolbar sat in the upper left-hand corner of the screen and only offered one toolbar, no tabs. To modify it, you had to customize it as we did by adding the View drop-down list. Next question. What components are in a view? Well, that's a pretty wild question because there's lots. Sheets, charts, graphs, forms, and other subcomponents like tables and details can all be part of a view. In the video, I went through these various components and how they relate in order to produce a view. The default views in Project are powerful, but in a later chapter, folks, we will slightly customize a few views in order to get this information to pop. We'll let Project do the computations and produce answers so that we can make data-informed decisions about our project. Third question. What's a combination view? The answer, of course, is it's a multi-component view. In other words, it's got an upper and a lower window. The upper window defines what's being looked at, and the lower window gives you details about it. This is great for analysis. It's used in analytics and in troubleshooting as well. Think of this as a way to focus on specifics, much like data filters that are found in databases. In the video, you saw this as an upper view and the ability to change details in the lower view. This is one of the handiest views in Microsoft Project, and as you learn to use the tool, you'll use this type of view often. That's not everything that's contained in the interface. There are many other components, and I encourage you to explore Project's user interface. You might just find that invaluable command, view, or report that you need badly to manage your projects. Good luck. Thanks for watching this video on Microsoft Project Do's and Don'ts.